Hello, my name is Alex Isles and welcome to Bamburgh Castle, and in this episode we're going to be talking about the Dark Ages, or as they better should be known, the early Middle Ages. Now in the Dark Ages we have a very interesting period, because what happens is at the end of Roman Britain many historical books are very poorly written about this period, because they suggest that the Romans pulled all of the troops out of Britain and left it merciless, and that's actually a lot down to the fault of a British historian and monk called Gildas, who suggests that the whole of Britain was horrendously destroyed at the end of the Roman period as the Angles and the Saxons and the Irish invaded Britain and set it alight. From archaeology we don't see a similar picture, but we actually see maybe more of a continuation as new people migrated into the British Isles and became a part of the existing structure, as slowly and steadily the language and the society of Britain changed. Now one of the important characters of this period is a man called Hen, who appears to be one of the last remaining Roman commanders of Britain, and he comes through into this period and actually survives into the modern day through a little ditty poem, and that is "Old King Cole was a merry old soul, and merry old soul was he." And Hen is one of these late Roman commanders who remains in Britain when the legions pull out, and he's probably a senior ranking military official, or also possibly a Limitsani commander. Now the Limitsani were the frontier troops of the Roman Empire who were hereditary soldiers and provided defence for Roman Britain at the end of the Roman period. So you've got these important frontier soldiers who are fighting back and trying to retain some form of Roman lifestyle up here in northern Britain. And as they're fighting to retain this Roman lifestyle up here in northern Britain, they would slowly over time mutate into petty kings or little kings in this area. And Hen is actually seen as the dynastic founder of many of the Romano-British kingdoms that follow on from the Roman period. He actually dies after there is a rising in what is now modern-day Scotland of the Picts and the Strathclyde Britons, or the Dalmatians as they're known back then. He goes up to fight in a battle against them, gets surrounded and killed, and dies quite tragically. But his children then continue on, and the dynasty that's founded from him claims descent back to the Roman period and their strength. Now I'm going to move forwards in history, and what we have is in the year 547 AD, we have a guy called Ida. Now Ida is a young prince of the Angles, and he's says to have come up from the south with 3 ships and have sailed up to eventually land at what would eventually the land around here, around Bamburgh Castle and around Lindisfarne. Now when he comes up here to northern Britain, we reckon he actually came from Lincolnshire. The reason why is because of the fact that there was a huge Anglian population down in that area. And when there's a huge Anglian population in that area, they've come up from there and they are looking to expand. The young princes of those dynasties, they haven't got opportunities in Lincolnshire anymore. There isn't as much land. So they're looking for new places to settle. And so Ida takes his 3 boatloads of men and he comes up here and he starts fighting in the local area and he settles in this area. And it's from this time that we actually get an image through the Welsh chronicles of the situation up here in northern Britain, because it seems that Ida at some times would fight alongside the Britons, and at other times he would fight against them. And when he fought against the Britons, eventually it seems that a coalition of British warlords came together and besieged Ida at the island of Melkout, which is what we today would refer to as Lindisfarne. That's its British name, and Melkout basically means the healing island, and it shows that even back in the period before the Anglo-Saxons, the island of Lindisfarne, also now known as a Holy Island, would have been a very important location. It would have been a place that maybe even back then was seen as a holy site or a place of healing, even back in the Dark Ages. When Ida is at the island of Lindisfarne, he's then besieged by 4 British kings. Now when he's besieged by 4 British kings, it's probably because he's been fighting against them and they've decided to come together and form a coalition so they can actually deal with this new Anglian warlord who's been causing a lot of trouble in the local area. Now when they form this coalition, there are 4 kings who come together. We have Uren, king of Reged, who is a direct descendant of the famous Hen. The next one is we have Riddick, who is the king of Dalmatia, which would later on become the Viking kingdom of Strathclyde, and is roughly around the same area as where Glasgow is today. And then we have Morgant, who is the king of Elmet, another one of the British kingdoms. Now, while they're besieging Ida in Bamburgh, Ida and his Northumbrians, or sorry, his Anglians as they would have been known back then, must have been starting to feel pretty desperate, because suddenly you've got these fierce British kings who are besieging you and are keeping you locked in on your island, and there is no look of escape or anything like that. But Urin is very, very famous, and he's much loved by the British people. The only problem is that Morgant is jealous of Urin, and when he's jealous of Urin, while they're besieging Ida in Lindisfarne, he murders him. And this breaks apart the coalition. The Britons start fighting against each other and they pull away. And this is the beginning of the end of the Kingdom of Reged in that area, as it's slowly now able to be controlled by Northumbria, because it has a number of its kings murdered by Morgant, and there is a fight between the kings of Elmet and the kings of Reged, which then eventually leads to the Ascendancy of Northumbria, as the Northumbrians are able to subjugate these British kings under their control. And so that means that the Anglians, these Germanic Northumbrians, are now able to take over the region and become the powerful new people in this Dark Age situation. Ida is then later on able to take Bamburgh, this location here, and create a stronghold on this site. And when he's able to make his stronghold on this site, he then is able to basically push out into more of what we would call Northumberland today and really secure a foothold, which is then expanded by his grandson Aelfrith, and we really see the conquest of this region by the English, and the Britons, or the Romano-Britons as they would have been known back then, are pushed more into the west and are actually subjugated, conquered, and are eventually anglicised over the centuries. So that little story there just kind of shows you how this group of Germanic warriors came up from the south, landed at this location, took over the island of Lindisfarne, which may have even gotten its name from the people of Lincolnshire, and then was able to conquer the area which would become Bamburgh Castle, form his kingdom here, and then push out and become Northumbrians. And I love that story because it shows you how the Dark Ages were so fluid, with Romano-Britons, Britons, Scots, Picts, Irish and Angles all coming together to form this kingdoms in the north of England. I really hope you've enjoyed the story today, and I've been able to tell you something about this period of the Dark Ages right up here in northern Britain. Please like, subscribe and share this with your friends, and I look forward to telling you more in the future. Until then, stay safe and well, and thank you for joining us today.